Hello, I'm Mark Payne. Welcome to History Alive. History Alive is a program of the West Virginia Humanities Council that brings historical figures to life through portrayals by presenters who have conducted thorough research into their character. These presentations are both entertaining and educational. The Humanities Council makes these characters available to nonprofit organizations across West Virginia, such as schools, libraries, historical societies, and a wide range of civic groups. Their presentation fee is paid by the council, and we ask only that their travel costs be covered by the host group. History Live is designed as an interactive experience between the character and the audience. We encourage your organization or school to host a presentation and bring a figure from history for a visit with your audience or students. Having someone like Pearl Buck or Chief Logan come to speak to your group can breathe life into these historical figures and make them more real. Nothing compares to the live, in-person visit. Each presentation consists of 3 parts: a monologue, a question-answer session with the character, and then the presenter breaks character to answer questions about how he or she conducted their research. The presenters on our History Alive roster have researched a variety of sources such as diaries, journals, letters, official documents, autobiographies, and the research of other scholars in developing their character. A History Live presentation is not a play. It is very much an audience participation event that relies on interaction between the audience and the character. Being able to ask your own questions of these important figures from the past is a unique experience. It's difficult to reproduce the feel of an actual History Alive presentation here in the studio. Without an audience to ask questions, we will change the format a bit and have our guests sit with me for a few questions after the monologue. But we hope to give a sample of how a History Alive presentation can add to the offerings at your school or organization. There will be information on the screen at the end of this program for how to contact the Humanities Council about bringing a History Alive character to your community. At this time, I would like to welcome today's guest from history. We are pleased to have with us in the studio leader of the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman.
I have heard their groans and cries. I have seen their tears, and I would give every drop of blood in my veins to set them free. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. Come on. We'll rest here a while. It'll be safe here. Now follow my hand. Look up at the stars. See the drinking gourd? The North Star right beside her. She's showing us the way to freedom. Never mind when the clouds be covering them up. She's still shining bright and true. Sweet child, it takes courage to be free. Now, I never run my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Besides, you can't go back now. What if you're caught or beaten? Or maybe you tell on us. No, we going all the way. Broken, blooded, or bruised, we going all the way if I have to carry you all the way. Because where's your mama? Where's your daddy? See, who God give us is each other. You got a right to be free. You got a right to the tree of life. Courage comes from keeping the people that love you here in your heart. When I was a little girl, I come up to my daddy and I say, Daddy, did God make us slaves? Who told you that? Now see, Daddy gets snappy when he get angry, and I say, well, Miss Sarah up at the big house say that God made black people slaves and that I must obey her if I want to go to heaven. Daddy say, sugar, only a man can make another man a slave. God got nothing to do with that. What your heart say God be like? You listen to your heart. Can't nobody tell you nothing better than that. You got a right, and I got a right. We all got a right to the tree of life. You got a right, I got a right, we all got a right to the tree of life. The very time I thought I was lost, the dungeon shook and the chains fell off. You may hinder me here, but you cannot dare. God in the heaven gonna answer prayer. You got a right, and I got a right. We all got a right to the tree of life. See, I keep my daddy here. He with me all the time. See, I remember where we come from. And I remember why we're here. Plantation wake every day to the same sound. Ain't no rain to wet you. Yes, I wanna go home. Ain't no sun to burn you. Yes, I wanna go home. Hear me calling. Ain't no tribulation. Yes, I wanna go home. Ain't no whips a cracking. Yes, I wanna go home. I believe there ain't no stormy weather. Yes, I wanna go home. Push along, believer. Yes, I wanna go home. I wanna go home. Oh. It was late in the fall and we was all shucking corn, racing to see who could shuck the most the fastest, when one man stands silent, not joining in the singing. The corn fall from his hand, say he needs some tobacco from the store. Next thing, he was gone. I hoped he made it this time. Now see, Jim was a big man, valuable. He'd run away twice before. Last time he made it all the way to Baltimore. Well, we'd worked together in the fields that summer, and he's the one to tell me how you travel on an underground railroad, conductors and all. By the time Overseer noticed Jim was missing, that bound-to-be free man had made it across the field. Oh, ride on, ride on, ride on, Moses, ride on, King Emmanuel. I want to go home in the morning. Now, see, Overseer wasn't expecting no outbreak. He didn't have no horse. He didn't have no gun. I knew where he was going. I took the shortcut, heading right out behind him. I was going to warn Jim. And as I come into the store and I'm about to tell him, who should come up right behind me but the overseer. Say, "I whip you good for running away from your work." And he ordered me to help tie Jim up. But I just stood there in the doorway with my arms stretched out. I couldn't move. And Jim, he slipped out the door beside me. Well, seeing that, Overseer reached over on the counter, pick up a 2-pound lead weight, and he threw it at Jim. It missed Jim, but it hit me right in the middle of the head, and the world went black. Oh, Lord, you done took away 2 of my babies. Please don't take this one, too. You see, I woke up to the sound of my mama singing and praying and rocking me there in her arms. See, when they brought my little crumpled heap of bones in there to Mama, there was so much blood everywhere. They were sure I was going to die. But Mama never lost hope. She just kept praying and singing and tending me when she could, coming in from the fields. And little by little, I got stronger. But I was never the same after that. See, I'd have sleeping spells. I'd fall asleep right in the middle of anything, and without any warning, and nobody could wake me up till I wake up by myself. See, the lash didn't even have no effect. If you call my name softly, then I might be stirred. First time it happened, Mama liked to die fright. She found me standing up in the yard, bucket in hand. Sound asleep. She just took off the hollering till help come. Well, now you see, Master had no use for me. He didn't want no troublemaker. He started bringing buyers around to the quarters to look me over. He'd bring them around, and I just that kind of silly, kind of woozy. I figured that was the only way I could keep from being sold. Take it away from my family. One man say, she ain't even worth a sixpence. Wonder what he'd think I was worth now. And then I started praying for him, Master. I say, Lord, change his heart, make him a good man. But he kept bringing them slavers around and bringing them around and bringing them around. And I changed my prayer. I say, Lord, if you can't change his heart, if you can't make him a good man, then put him out the way. Soon after that, Master died. It's a prayer, powerful thing, and I know that was my prayers would put him down. And then I prayed like I'd never prayed before for the good Lord to sweep and sweep and sweep my heart till it was pure and clean. Because can't nobody free your heart but God, sweet child. Nobody. If there's anybody here like weeping Mary, call upon your Jesus and he'll draw nigh. If there's anybody here like weeping Mary, call upon your Jesus and he'll draw nigh. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory be to my God who lives on high. Angels. Well, see, says Master wouldn't, couldn't sell me. He let me hire myself out for work so he could make some kind of profit off me, and my daddy Ben got me hired by the man he worked for, Jim Stewart. I had to set aside my hoping for escape. You see, I was afraid I might have one of my sleeping spells out on the road somewhere and not wake up in time to save myself. But I couldn't stop thinking and dreaming. And the same dream come to me night after night. See, I'd be flying, floating, up over cotton fields, cornfields, up over the river and on, just like a bird. And then I'd come to a river or a fence, and I'd start sinking down, losing. I just couldn't make it. And then ladies dressed in white would appear. With outstretched arms, they reached out, and they pulled me across. I held on to them dreams. The only part of me that's really mine. See, slave master can take your body, but he can't have your heart, your soul, your mind. Lest you give it up. That belongs to nobody but you. See our people in the sky, take a hand and follow on. Knew the morning of the dawn, knew the morning of the dawn. I passed a Quaker woman on the road one day, and she asked me about that scar on my forehead. I told her the story. She said if I ever needed help, I should come to her. Well, I knew what she meant when she glanced up at the overseer. She would help me escape. Well, excited, I come home, and I tell my husband, John, that we can both go north now to freedom, have a real life, that I knew a woman who would help us. John just turned cold on me. He say, I'll be first tell your master if you do. I couldn't believe what I heard. But the look in his eye told it all. He truly would. I said, John Tubman was a free man, born free, his mama free, his daddy free, and he angry with me for wanting to be free. Well, then my soul lit into flame. With or without him, I would not let go of my dream. I meant to be free. I determined there was two things I had a right to: liberty or death. And if I could not have one, I would have the other. I would die trying. And I prayed, Lord, I'm holding steady on to you. And when the time comes for you to take me, I'll be ready to go. Because no man take me alive unless you pick the time. You see, children, freedom a precious thing. And I grew up like a neglected weed, ignorant of liberty, having no experience of it. Then I was not happy or contented. Every time I saw a white man, I was afraid of being carried away. I had two sisters carried away in the chain gang, and one of them left behind two little children. You see, we was always uneasy. Day come when word from the grapevine said I'd been sold south, leaving Monday with the chain gang. I decided to take my chances going north on my own now. Come what may. John had set a watch on me. My brothers couldn't trust them neither. It was time for me to go alone, and I got my quilt, my chicken bag, little bit of money I'd left from my savings, John's hunting knife, the ash cake from the fire, and his shoes. Now, would that make him angry? And then come dark in John's deep sleep, I made my way to Bucktown, to the Quaker woman's house, stealing myself away. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away home. I ain't got long to stay. I circled around the house, making sure all was quiet, no dogs, no voices, and I come up and I knock on the door. Who is it? It's Harriet from Doc Thompson's place. The door opened slowly, and a smiling, pearly white face peeked out at me, asked me to come in. And as I rested myself at a table, she wrote 2 names on a piece of paper and handed them to me. See, this was a station on the Underground Railroad, and she told me how to get to the next station. Well, here I was thinking the Underground Railroad was made of iron and steel, when all the while it was made of flesh and blood. I never could repay her. She set my feet solid on that road, and I gave her the only beautiful thing I had. I gave her my quilt. Following her directions, I traveled on the next road and the next road. John Hunds and up into Smyrna, and then on and on. The last night, I watched and waited. Mr. Garrett rode me out of town Sunday morning when everybody was in the church, and then he took me to a place where the path was well worn down. He wished me Godspeed and pressed a shiny silver dollar into my hand and told me freedom was only another hour's walk away, and not even that. With my head held high, I walked, and I walked, and I walked, until I walked into the free state of Pennsylvania. Glory to God, and Jesus too. One more soul got safe. Oh, go on and spread the news. One more soul got safe.
I'm here with the leader of the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman. Ms. Tubman, I'd like to thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you kindly for having me.
In listening to what your remarks were earlier, you mentioned that you lost a couple of sisters that were carried away when you were a child. I was wondering, what can you tell me about your childhood, and what do you know of your brothers and sisters? How many brothers and sisters did you have, or do you have? And
well, there was 10 of us, and I must say that I was able to bring out every single one, except for the 2 sisters that we lost on the chain gang. We never heard any more news of them ever. But I was able to bring out my brothers and their wives and my sisters and my mother and my father. Now, most of the time we were walking, or we'd get a ride maybe part of the way, maybe in a buggy or a carriage or such. And occasionally, well, you know, after the fugitive slave law came in, we couldn't stay. We couldn't trust Uncle Sam with our peoples anymore. We had to go clear on and shake the lion's paw. Now, you know who the lion is, don't you?
I have to confess that I don't.
Really? Well, the lion, that's the British lion, and that would have been Queen Victoria. You see, she offered us freedom when America would not. And then we'd actually get on the real iron horse, and we'd go that 300-mile more, past Pennsylvania, on through New York, up into Canada. And that's what she called shaking the lion's paw.
Ah, I understand. So when you escaped, when you headed north, you went by yourself.
Yes, sir.
What was it like leaving behind your husband and family as a young woman to a fate unknown at that time?
Well, I tell you what I tell the generals when they ask me about going down into the South and doing the work they'd ask me to do there. They say, ain't you afraid of them Southern people? They hate you. And I say, as long as I'm doing what God wants me to do, God take care of me. And you see, there's some people don't know what their freedom is for. I went back for my husband some 2 years later. He met me at the door of the house that I built with the money that I had been able to save with his new wife. And they laughed at me. See, some people don't know what their freedom is for. And I turned, and I found him that was ready to leave and come on. And I didn't look back. But when you know in your heart you're doing what God's calling you to do, there's no room for fear. And you don't have to anticipate the way you're talking as if you didn't have no trust in your heart, as if you didn't know that God was going to carry you. He got me through 7 trials. He's going to get me through the next one. He's not going to abandon me now. And so it was. Who can know what the next day or the next moment will ever bring? And there you are. You might be shaking the lion's paw yourself.
Well, that's tempting at times, for sure. I would. You didn't look back at that point, but when you left that first night, and you had gone north. At what point did you determine that you wanted to return to go back and help others?
I think it was that first night as I rested on that cold, damp ground. You see, I'd spent the first part of the day just praising the sun come like gold through the trees and over the fields. I was in heaven. I even had to look at my hands to see if I was still the same person now that I was free. But I couldn't stop thinking about them folks back home. You see, I'd crossed the line that I dreamt about for so long. I was free. But they should be free also. So here, what I had dreamt for so long had come to me. I determined right then that God helping me, I would make a home here in the north, and I would bring them and as many others as I could up here with me. Well, God helping me. That's what I done.
Do you have any idea of about how many people that you managed to help gain their freedom?
Oh, Mr. Payne, I really can't say. I mean, there are those, we didn't keep records, and I never did learn to read or write. Now, sometime when we come through Philadelphia, the Freedmen's Bureau, there, William Still, he be taking notes and writing down little bits about people, and he be keeping track some. But it was dangerous for us to keep a record. And that was, I think Miss Bradford, we come just from different things. I think she got a little carried away with the numbers. I do. But it was a plenty. Some people say as many as 300. And that may be that many because they might not have all come all the way with me, but they heard something and they tried to go. And that's sometimes all it takes is the will in your heart and the call, and you find your way.
Indeed. At this time, I'd like to introduce the presenter of Harriet Tubman. This is, in reality, Eileen Evans from Thomas, West Virginia. And Eileen, I want to thank you for taking time out of your, what I know is a very busy schedule, to be with us here today for the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Mark. It's a real honor to be able to tell these stories.
I want to ask you what I ask all the guests for this show, which is, what was it about Harriet Tubman that compelled you to want to do the research and to portray and tell her story?
Well, initially,
I was introduced to her through a song by Holly Near and Ronnie Gilbert, written by Walter Robinson, and it was called Lifeline, and it told the story of her. Come on up, I got a lifeline, come on up to this train of mine. Who are these children dressed in red? They must be the ones that Moses led. Who are these children dressed in red? They must be the one that Moses led. And then she tells the story of somebody escaping with Harriet Tubman, and as they're telling that story, it begins to wrap itself around the image of another much told Greek myth, the myth of Prometheus, of him bringing fire, of light, of deliverance to humans. And I could see her coming through in my mind, through the dark, with that light in her soul that kept everybody safe and kept them clear and helped them find somebody who would keep them on the right road. That story was not being told at the time I started to work on it. It wasn't in any curriculum anywhere, and now, how many years later, it's in almost every school curriculum. But at the time when we started to research and develop this as a program we would take into the schools, nobody was doing it, and no one was interested in that part of Black history and didn't see her as someone to emulate. As her story got stronger and has been shared more and more, I find it very gratifying because she's such a continual source of inspiration to me.
And the research aspect of this, I'm sure probably proved a challenge.
Oh, quite a
so
big
how
challenge.
did you go about that? I mean, what were the sources, or were there plenty, or very few? Or?
There were very few sources, and the sources that there were, when I would look through the libraries and some things about her specifically, were in the children's section. I didn't find anything in the adult section, no real scholarly work. There were novels. Dorothy Sterling had done a novel. There was the Sarah Bradford biography that she had. One of Harriet's friends, a white woman there, asked if she could help when they came short on their mortgage by publishing some of the fantastic stories and life and times that she'd had. And so Sarah Bradford actually published 2 biographies of her. But they are a bit stilted, and they're not in the first person, so we have absolutely no real primary source material. I used letters. I found letters from Wendell Phillips, from Frederick Douglass, people who were trying to recommend her after her work in the Civil War. She tried to get a pension of her own for the work that she did in the service. It turns out she never got paid, except for when her husband, Nelson Davies, died, her second husband, served in the Army, and it was his pension that she was able to get. But they were writing letters about her. They were recommending her.
Okay. Eileen, I want to thank you again for being with us here today. We're so proud of the work that you and all of our History Live presenters do. And thank you for watching History Alive.
Thanks. Bye.